Is this everything that you were hoping it to be, or is this going to be a case of Apple dropping the ball? Let's find out. One of these new boxes like the AirPods Max, it kind of just folds out like that. Still no paper wrapper. I thought we were done with the plastic for environmental reasons. M2, this is the blue color. Everybody got the new blue color because it's the new color and we all want to see what it looks like. Now we get the paper. Oh, it's thin, I mean, that's for sure. I kind of like the fact that they went with that same styling as the MacBook Pros. Because I like that squared off look. Oh, dude, it's thin. It's pretty. I mean, it's pretty. Definite upgrade on the previous MacBook Airs. Got the braided cables here. Again, it's the little details, dude. It's matching blue. And then I did not upgrade anything, so I have the standard charger that basically looks like it's gonna charge an iPad. I think it's about 35 watts or something like that. One USB-C. We're gonna talk about that as well. Just a second, stay with me. And that's it. That's in the box. That's all you get. Let's open the lid for the very first time. Headed into the office today. Got to do a little bit of real work, and so I'm taking the M2 MacBook Air with me. Figured we'd try it out in a setting that I think a lot of people are going to use it in, right? Getting work done. I've been pretty excited about getting my hands on this device. It's been rumored for months. Everybody knew there was a new chassis coming out. Some people thought they were actually going to drop the new chassis with the M1 MacBook Air, but obviously we didn't see that happen. They brought out the new chip, kept everything else the same, and they saved the new chassis for this new M2. We're going to talk about processors in a minute, but first let's just talk about the physical body here. Lots of stuff going on. New colors. Starlight is beautiful. Take a look at this. It matches the Starlight iPad Air that came out a few months ago. And now we've got this midnight blue that is a little confusing to me because I have a blue iPhone, but it doesn't look like this blue. And I had a blue iMac that was a different blue again. And I don't understand, why can't we just have one color in the palette match across the range? If I like blue, which I do, I would like a blue phone that matches my blue Air, that matches my blue iMac. Is that too much to ask? What do you think? Tell me what colors you've got going on, and let's see if you're on the same page as Uncle Mikey or not, because you might not be, and that's okay. We can have some variation in life, but I like blue. But if I could get an orange iPhone, just saying, I'd probably go orange. Just for the record, this laptop feels to me kind of like Manchester United winning 4-1. They scored 4 goals, but they gave one away. 4-0 would have been better. And that's what it feels like, because we move so many things forwards. The new look, the new screen, the new chip, the new keyboard, the new speakers, the new power adapter that's smaller than the old one and takes even longer to charge. These kind of giveaway goals that just take a little bit of shine off the device. The color's awesome. It's a really nice blue. But by golly, it seems to scratch. Apparently, the whole interweb is in uproar because the USB-C ports are scratching within 5 and 6 days of people getting their device. Does that mean the whole laptop's going to scratch? Well, it sure sounds like it is. And I don't know about you, but I don't want a laptop that scratches that easily. Apple's laptops have been the gold standard. The Space Gray, I don't think I've ever seen a scratch on it. My Silver, no scratches. I don't want to color the scratches. It's going to look cheap and nasty and tacky. What happened here? What were you doing? I don't know if they've changed the process here. They've gone with a less expensive process because it's a less expensive device. But whatever you've done, Mr. Apple, can you undo it, please, and just make it like resilient? And can we get some more cool colors while we're at it, like all the rumors? Because the green looked amazing, the orange looked amazing. And I want an orange laptop with an orange phone because I like orange even more than I like blue. On the subject of the chassis, I'm going to show you some great footage here compared to a number of devices. Here is a MacBook Air, and we've also got a MacBook Pro that we're going to show your way, just so you can see a couple of the nuances. Love these rounded corners, they're pretty, it's a really good aesthetic. Microsoft obviously done the same thing with the Surface Laptop Studio. I think we're going to see more of that. It definitely makes the devices feel less sharp. And when you're holding this, it feels oodles of comfort in your hand. The 1460 MacBook Pros definitely set the bar with their kind of nice curved round edges. This is a laptop I'm curving. Don't get any ideas, people. It's just a laptop. They also feel great in the hand. The aluminum, when you kind of rub your fingers over here, I don't want to do it too hard because you're going to see my fingerprints everywhere. That's one of those goals that they let in that they didn't need to. But it feels great. It feels thinner in your hand than it actually is compared to the MacBook Pro 14, considering they're basically the same design. It also feels lighter in your hand than it's supposed to be compared to the MacBook Pro 14. In other words, what I mean by that is, you know it's thinner, and you can tell by these images that it looks thinner, but in your hand it feels significantly thinner. And I don't know whether your hands are just more sensitive than our brains and the way we process measurements and data, but it really feels thin and light. I wish I could have this as my daily driver, but I can't. And I'm going to tell you why in a moment. Combined with the new chassis, we get a new screen. They stretched it a little bit, but not too much, because they didn't want it to match the 14-inch Pro, because we need a reason to buy the Pro. So it's 13 still, but 0.6 instead of 0.3. It does make a difference, and as you see the screenshots, you're going to see how much bigger it looks than an M1 MacBook Air, because I did a screen comparison just of those two devices for you guys, because I like to be nice and show you these things while I have them all in the studio to play around with, so that you can make a good decision about which way you want to go. So you can see some awesome 4K showing off the blacks, showing off the color reproduction, showing off the ridiculous notch that makes no sense. As you look at the colors here, you can definitely see an improvement from the M1 Air to the M2 Air. The colors are more vibrant, the blacks look a little bit blacker. This is absolutely an improvement on screen quality, screen caliber, and screen size. But look at that notch. Is this a Google Pixel 3? Did we really go and copy 3 generations ago of a Google phone? Why? If you look carefully at these two notches as I'm showing them to you, notice that the placement of the camera doesn't look like it's really moved that much. Now, yes, the bezels got thinner, but it didn't get that much thinner. And there's a lot of a gap between the camera and the bottom of the notch. I don't think it was necessary to make it this big. It's obviously a design aesthetic that they want to lean into, but it makes no sense to me because iPhone 14 that we dropped a video on here not too long ago is not going to have a notch. The regular one will, but the Pro and the Pro Max will not. It's going to have a pill and a dot, just like... It's going to have a pill and a dot, just like Google showed us with their Pixel 7. So it's a confusing time, and it's strange to me because on the one hand, we're getting consistency. The 1460 MacBook Pros feel consistent now with the 13-inch MacBook. The notches started to come, but now they're starting to leave while we're still bringing more notches in. Eventually they're going to go, whether it's a pill or a dot. So I don't get that ebb and flow. I feel it's a little bit unnecessary, and maybe they're trying to make a statement here, but they made the logo bigger, so everybody already knows it. It's bigger. On the subject of screens, let's look at the MacBook Air 2 or M2 versus a MacBook Pro, because you may find yourself in a strange place and needing to pay the extra for the Pro. If you do, here's what you're going to get. Again, a noticeable improvement in the screen. I don't think the Pro screen is as much of an improvement over the M2 Air as the M2 screen is over the M1 screen. As you're looking at these colors, hopefully they reproduce relatively well depending on what screen you're looking at them on, but you can definitely see here a little bit more richness, a little bit deeper blacks. It's definitely fun to be able to put things side by side. Even for me, as somebody that uses tech heavily, regularly, and reviews tech, sometimes when I think in my mind, well, that screen doesn't really look a whole lot different, then I put it next to a device and holy moly, there's actually more of a difference than I remembered there being. And just for grits, I'm gonna drop here the Asus 14X that we reviewed last week and let you have a look at an OLED screen next to the M2 MacBook Air. So lots of screens for you to compare here. We put chapter markers in so you can skip back and you can watch this again. Look at the color differences here and how the Asus is handling the blacks and the vibrancy of the colors even better. Obviously it's an OLED, and I think this really goes to show that whichever way you slice the dice, we are approaching the peak of an LED screen's capability. I think it's a foregone conclusion that Apple will go OLED at some point across the range. It's just a matter of time, economics, and most importantly, battery life, because OLEDs do suck that battery, and that's not what we want to hear. So let's talk about battery life. I have seen crazy reports about the M2. Is it better than the M1? From what I have seen, yes. I've only had it for about a week or less. Is it going to be oodles better? I don't think so. Is it a little bit better? It would appear that the M2 has got a little bit more going for it in the performance cores. But if we want to get into chips for a second, let's talk about this chip, because there are definitely some own goals happening here, and you might not be aware of them. When Apple released the M1, we had a MacBook Pro and a MacBook Air, and it was very confusing to a lot of people why they should pay the extra for the MacBook Pro, because no one really cared for the touch bar. The battery life was pretty similar, and the MacBook Pro had active cooling versus passive cooling, but practically most people didn't care because the passive cooling wasn't a problem. With the M2, things have changed a little bit because we still have the old, outdated design MacBook Pro 13-inch that frankly, it looks to me like Apple's got a warehouse full of the old chassis because they made too many of them, and rather than throw them away, they just figured they'd keep on selling them and slap an M2 chip in it because it looks awful. It looks dated, the screen's old, everything's old. Don't buy it, okay? Just don't. If you need sustained performance, there are better reasons to go to the 14-inch Pro than to stay at the 13-inch Pro. On the MacBook Air, however, we have an M2 processor that's built on the same architecture as the M1. That doesn't normally happen if we want to get uber technical for a second, because I can do that. $1699 is really the price point that this starts to make sense. 16 gigabytes, 512 gigabytes. Now you've got a machine that's going to last you for a little while. But here's the problem. Right now, today, at $1749 on sale, I can buy a MacBook Pro 14-inch. Why would I not spend the $50? More ports, more power, more cooling, more screen, better screen. Like, do I need to go on? It leaves me in a strange place because I got the new chassis, I got the new keyboard, and it's a really nice keyboard. It's kind of like the 14 and 16 Pros. It feels awesome to type on. It just glides my fingers across and wills them to run faster and break the 3-minute mile so that they can get those words on the page as fast as possible when I type in google.com. Because every millisecond counts. But then, how much do I need to spend? Somewhere, this device fails at any given price point to entice me enough, and it just wills me to go extra to the Pro. And it kind of makes me start to feel like, who was this designed for? Because you made the F keys taller, and they look nicer and they're easier to hit than in the old M1 Air. Thank you, I appreciate it. You made the screen better, I appreciate it. You put in a 1080p webcam, so I don't look ugly anymore. I look handsome when I'm on my Zoom calls. All right, I definitely appreciate that. You gave me the same awesome trackpad, but then you gave me a color that scratches. You gave me a drive that's slower, and you gave me price points that make no sense. Because at the low end, in some ways, the M1 Air is a great buy still at $999, and it's gonna be $799 on Black Friday. And I know that because I bought one last year for $799 on Black Friday. That's too much of a difference to justify this. But I spec this with a little bit of power, and then I'm so close, it makes no sense to not get the Pro. What was this designed for? Is it just an upgrade machine to get me to spend more and buy the higher end models? I don't know, but it kind of feels like that might be the case. Could you buy this and be happy with it and use it? Everyday low level performance? Absolutely. But unless you fit that niche, there are some compromises or some decisions to make when you start to make choices about paying for upgrades. You start buying the better power supply and things like that that really should have just been included. And those are all nickel and dimes that add on top and lead you to a place where, well, I might as well just buy the Pro and I get all these things and I get more performance from the Pro chip, which is a step above. And I think that gap's gonna get bigger when the M2 Pro and the M2 Max come out and the gap grows even more. Here's some benchmarks for you. Check them out. This is the M2 regular versus the M1 Air. We're gonna throw in a couple of other machines here, some ones we've reviewed recently, like the Dell XPSs, just to give you some idea and gauge of performance. Performance isn't the issue in general for the chip for everyday use. It's only those outliers, those heavy power users that are really gonna see the benefits in the higher end models. And so you end up with a device that it's truly beautiful. It feels wonderful in your hand. It's light. It does everything it's supposed to do. And it does it really, really well. But there's one that's kind of nearly as good for less. And there's one that's a whole lot more powerful and better for not much more, depending on how you spec it out. You got to decide where you fit in the middle of this. Is it a good device? Yes. Should you buy it? I don't know. If you fit the niche use case it's designed for, sure, but don't pick the blue color. If you don't, you might do better saving money and staying with an M1 or spending more money and going to a Pro. If you just gotta have this design, this latest and greatest, and you are happy to spec it out at 16 and 512, all power to you, knock yourself out. I just think at $16.99, that's not the best value for money. And it leaves me in an icky place. Hey Sundar, this is Satya. Hey Satya, how you doing, buddy? Dude, I'm not doing so good. We're not selling enough computers. Actually, now that you say it, our Chromebook sales are down too. Well, I've got an idea, Sundar, because I realized we're selling less and Apple's selling more. We ran an internal investigation and hired an outside consulting firm who spent 6 months researching the analytics and purchasing habits of the entire global population, and we analyzed that data through our Google AI, and we concluded the same thing. Apple is selling more and we're selling less. Well, I've got an idea. Ooh, tell me more. Look, I've heard that Apple's about to drop a new MacBook Air and they're doing a new color, and I know which factory is making that blue paint. And if we take some of our leftover chemicals that didn't work so good on the original Surface Pro and we go and poison the well at the chemical factory making the blue paint, they're gonna release a laptop with paint that chips and cracks and flakes off, and no one's gonna know why. Oh, I like it. So then when that happens, people are gonna not wanna keep those MacBooks for so long and they're gonna wanna look for something else. Exactly. And that's where we swipe in, Microsoft and Google, and we reclaim back some of that lost business while Apple figures out what went wrong. Okay, Satya, I'm gonna get my hat, my sunglasses and my scarf. I'll meet you down there Sunday night, 11 p.m. Let's do this. Okay, Sundar, peace out. Let me know if you're gonna be buying one of these bad boys or if you're thinking the same thing as me and finding it all a little bit too confusing. Check out these cool videos if you wanna see more. Till next time, go out there and be amazing.